Hey guys, welcome to Coaching with Chris. I'm pretty excited because I got a great guest today. But if you haven't checked out Windsor Fast Track, make sure you contact your AE. We are killing it. If you like quick, fast, accurate, and great conditions, check out Fast Track. Also, up on the new docket is the Windsor Pulse, and that's like your total connection into everything Windsor. Whether you want to get booked for our playbook events, which is coming up in April, May, June, July, if you want to get one of those events, don't miss out. We only have limited seats per one, or you're trying to connect and see new rules and new programs and new things that Windsor's offering. Windsor Pulse is that one-step connection that we've been able to get everything all into one. So check out Windsor Pulse. Now, with that, let's get into the guest. Today, I have a special guest. Let me tell you a little bit about Trevor. Like I first met Trevor, I traveled to Las Vegas, went to hang out for a day, and just kind of really build and understand doing content. And I didn't know Trevor. I didn't even know that Trevor existed. And so I showed up and I'm like, man, there is something really special about Trevor. And he started walking me through these journeys, and we're nerding out and we're talking about mortgage and we're talking about our paths. But then more importantly, I watched him interview me and get the best content I think I've ever delivered. And I felt like, wow, Trevor has a gift. And I think Trevor's gift is branding, social media, being able to connect. But this greatest gift is just being real and being him. And that's probably the one thing that I appreciate out of him the most. So, Trevor, welcome to Coaching with Chris.
What's going on, man? I really appreciate that introduction.
You know, you always have the cool microphones and the best audio. I can't keep up with you. What brand is that? The golden microphone.
I don't, you know, what's funny? I got this one as a gift. It became kind of a thing. I have like 3 golden mics now, and I actually don't know the brand of this one.
I mean, I thought you collected cameras. Now we collect microphones. Is there anything else we collect besides Volkswagens?
Oh, the Volkswagens, and then anything with 2 wheels. I think my garage has like a lot of bikes and dirt bikes and motorcycles, and yeah,
That so biggest hobby then is dirt bikes?
yeah, dirt bikes, mountain bikes, anything like that. Anything 2 wheels is fun.
So let's get into shop a little bit. Just so the audience really understands you. You're in mortgage.
Yeah, I'm a loan officer.
And yeah, and your journey into mortgage, I don't even know exact. Maybe I do, but like your journey into mortgage started when?
Back in 2017, and I feel like it's the same story that everybody has of how they got into mortgage, and it's by accident, right? Like no
Yeah.
one really plans on going into it, and it was same thing. I had a business in casino gaming actually, and I sold that company when I was 24. Was kind of skiing every day. Met a guy, conversation sparked up, and lending kind of seemed like a good next step. I knew I wanted to do my own business again, and the way this was presented to me is like, man, as a loan officer, it's your own business, but you don't have to think of the business model; it's already there. But yeah, do your own marketing, be innovative, be creative, figure out a way to grow the business. And it's basically entrepreneurship with a business that already exists. And I'm like, that sounds perfect for me right now. So that was kind of how I got into it. And yeah, now however many years later, still going.
Well, I mean, you're almost you just keep clipping by. 17, you said you got in?
Yep, 17.
So close to coming around 8 years
Yeah.
or so in mortgage. So you know, today you started another company, and that's what we want to talk about today. And you're helping mortgage originators across the country do what?
So it was kind of funny because the business started by demand more than anything. So when I got into lending, the thing that I did really different was started making videos, put those
Mm.
on social media with the sole intent of just growing my business. I had zero goal of making viral videos or getting reach. Like I just wanted to get more loans, and it worked really well. And I was getting a lot more business from these videos. And then as I focused on making those videos better, not only did they reach the people in my market, but they actually started to reach a lot of people, thousands of people, then hundreds of thousands, then eventually even millions of people with these videos, which is absolutely crazy. And then with that, a lot of people in our industry started following me. And the messages I would always get were, what camera do you shoot on? And who built your website? And for me, it was this solution that I'd built on my own because nothing really existed the way I wanted it, where I wanted like a website that had lead capture and it had these quiz functionality to be able to screen leads and email software. And I built this out with like 9 different pieces of software. Worked really well for me, but it was something that like I would be doing you a disservice. I was like, hey, Chris, here's my setup. Here's the tech stack. You would need a full-time person to be able to manage that whole thing. So now I was talking to a buddy who's a developer, and he's like, "Hey, let's build this thing." And he had built something similar for different industries, so we didn't have to start from scratch. And yeah, we built it out. That became what it's LynkSpot now, which is kind of just this all-in-one solution where we build out kind of the whole front-facing website, have the back-end tools to make everything work, and then we have this done for you component where we actually build whatever it is that you want. So kind of the big missing piece for a lot of people in our industry who don't have, a huge team that they're spending a ton of money to keep employed. We kind of do all of that for them.
So you build and design basically in a sense a website geared towards just an originator. So if you're working for a company and you want your own website, you would hire you, you would give them basically a turnkey product
Yep.
that would help generate leads, and then that obviously has to be tied to other things than just a website, right?
Yeah.
Like the key is to drive people to the website.
Exactly. So it's kind of like the whole front facing part of it. So anything that someone sees. So that's your website where you just go to, chrisvenson.com. And so I'd be able to see you and it's personally branded. But then there's a lot of functionality on there. So there's different forms of lead capture. So automated scheduling is a huge one. So being able to integrate something like Calendly into your site so people can book a time with you without having to do the back and forth. Linking your online application, which most of us have now, but it's just
Mhm.
putting it in a place that's really easy for people to access, and then having quiz functionality, which is kind of like what made Quicken back in the
Mhm.
day, was just these really simple ways for you to start the process where you answer a few questions, kind of drives you down the funnel. So we have all of that on the site, but all of that has to go into a back end, which is kind of where our CRM, and I say CRM loosely because it's like a lead tracker. But that's where all of that's documented, connects to your email software and everything else from the back end.
So in these tools, when you talk about a lead tracker, so when these leads come in through it, are you tracking it in a sense so that there's a follow up to continuous to these borrowers, and that you're continuing touching them? Do I design that part, or do you take care of that part?
So kind of a little of both. So it is a CRM and it's like a light CRM, right? But the leads
Sure.
come in and you can build out whatever automations you want. So if someone takes the quiz and they say that they're self-employed with a 700 FICO, you can have a specific campaign that goes out with that exact criteria. And those are usually built by you give us what you want. We do all of the building for you, so you don't have to do anything, but you would just come up with what you want with your specific workflow. So a huge thing that we kind of believe in is like you build your personal brand, but you also build your marketing in a way that speaks to you. Because a lot of the very templatized and kind of corporate down marketing that a lot of loan officers get become really watered down and ineffective. So if you're able to make these campaigns in a way that you want to, and obviously we do all the legwork for you, you come up with more of the concept of what you want built. It just becomes a lot more effective.
Hmm. So more effective.
Yeah.
I think you had me when you said this is the way Quicken does it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's we call it like the step in the middle too. So we want to make it really easy for people to work with us. And if you think about like when Quicken and Rocket and these online lenders came into play, a lot of the way that local lenders started to combat online lenders is we would downplay how simple they tried to make it, right? So that whole campaign of click button get mortgage, we know that's not the case. It's not click button get mortgage. It's click button, answer 100 questions, start the process, go through underwriting, probably get conditions that are bogus, and then miss closing and blah blah blah. So we knew it was a lot more complicated. So like a loan officer's response to click button get mortgage was, it's not that simple. It's so
Right.
complicated. It's scary, it's hard, it's terrible, and we thought that that was increasing our value, but the only thing that was doing was, like, telling our customers we make it harder than Rocket does, right? And so they heard, like, "Well, they said click button, get mortgage." Like, "No, it's not well, I'm gonna go with them because they made it that way." So this is kind of for us to combat that is they say, "Oh, online lenders make it seem really easy." It's like, "Yeah, so do we." They said, "It's click button." "Yeah, it is. Go ahead. You could go on my website and click the button."
Yeah.
We instead of, like, trying to disagree with them, we just join them. Like, let's have the same thing they have that people clearly love and resonate with, but on top of that, you have me. And so that's kind of the big separator is like don't try and fight it, join it, and then do more because there's a ton of things we do better than online lenders.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, so that's what we do.
That's really neat. I never really understood exactly what LynkSpot. Now, how did you come up with the name LynkSpot? How does this all tie in? Because I know you're a brander. I know that's how you
Yeah.
think. How does LynkSpot then name tie into these products that you're providing to originators?
So it kind of is this like one, the really hard thing now is getting domains. And a lot of times it's like, don't worry too much about it. But when you're selling a web platform, the domain is really important. So a lot of it is like we had a ton of names that we liked, but then you run it through and domains aren't available. And the one thing we knew we wanted was it's like it's everything in one place. It's all consolidated. It's all in one spot. It's like all your links in one spot. All right, cool, link spot.
Ah,
We
LynkSpot.
started to play on that. So
That's a cool idea. So, is this all it does is website, or do you do other things as well?
So it's the website, CRM, email software, automated scheduling, and then like I said, the done for you component as well is a huge one is us building the thing. So if you were like alone, we just did this the other day for a guy who's doing a charity golf tournament. And so he requests through his account, he just says, I need a registration page for my golf tournament, confirmation to email to go out. Here's all the information. We design it, build it, publish it. So in 2 days, the guy had a fully done registration page for a golf tournament, and that's all included in that subscription.
Wow.
Yeah,
So, to get this, you pay a fee,
yeah.
uh, like an upfront deal, a monthly deal. Like, how does it work?
So there's an upfront fee to get it set up for the actual website build out, and we have two different tiers. We have one that's it's our pro build, and that's like a custom build exactly how you want it, and that's $2,000. And then we have a templatized build, which is still personalized, so it's not going to look the same as anybody else's, but it's a lot less work on our end, which means that there's saved cost, which we just pass on to the LO, and that I believe is $400 for our kind of templatized build.
Wow. What a cool way for an LO to start off. They're wanting something independently to start branding. You're going to make it have their feel. And I mean, really, even the $2,000 is like super cheap.
Yeah, we tried to make it because getting a website, I mean, you know this as well as anybody, getting websites built is not a cheap thing. And
Right.
so we kind of got this process really dialed in, and we obviously I understand lending. I do loans. So when I design these,
Right.
it's like I want to design these for conversion, how I wanted it as a loan officer. And so when we were able to figure that out, we got our cost extremely low. So yeah, to get a fully customized site for 2 grand is already pretty crazy.
It's
And then the
crazy.
templatized one's even better. And then
Yeah.
the other piece to that is once you're on there, for all of that service with the email software, CRM, all the done for you, unlimited requests is 247 a month.
That's that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
a great deal. Uh, let's talk about social media. Um, you've concentrated on it. You've played with it, tested it, figured out what works, doesn't work. What mistakes do you feel like loan officers are making today on social media besides not doing it? I think that's probably step one.
Definitely.
Uh, your biggest mistake is just simply not doing it. But what are the things that you're seeing that if they just made a tweak or a change, they'd see a result? I think a lot of loan officers are starting to post now,
Yeah.
and they're starting to become more and more noise. But what are you seeing that they could do to make a difference?
I think what the biggest mistake people do is they're not finding their own voice. And so a lot of loan officers do what they think they're supposed to do rather than what even they want to do or what
Mm,
their audience wants them to do. And so those are the two things that I would focus on very, very heavily is like, what does the person on the other side of the screen want to see? And then what do I want to make? And a lot of times those two things are very different than what the person's making. And we all get stuck in this. And like a really good example, because realtors have been doing this forever, is like there was this playbook that they all followed of like the just listed, just sold. And they do the same images and it's through the entire country that everybody does the exact same thing. And no one really varied from it and no one knows why. And it was kind of just like, I'm a realtor and this is what realtors do. So this is what I'm going to make. But as
right.
consumers, like, I don't know that I want to just see a bunch of just listed, just solds, infographics about the 4th of July and St. Patrick's Day. Like all these things that kind of seem expected, those don't work. And we know that because we don't want to see them. So then a lot of times, like, what do you want to see would be the best focus of what you should create. And I don't think that people are creating content that they would want to watch. They're just creating content that they think they should be making.
Hmm. Yeah, Sam P just said to start out with social media, do you recommend pushing out content or is it better to do quality content maybe once a week or quantity over quality? What's your thoughts on that? I think being real, I also want to go back to that topic of what you said. So
Mhm.
first, let's answer Sam's question. I got to follow up.
Cool. So I think that there's kind of a sweet spot on quality, and it's not as high as you would think. I think like a 6 out of 10. As long as you're hitting a 6 out of 10, you've checked the box on quality. Beyond that, you run the risk of looking like a highly produced commercial, and you lose a lot of authenticity. If it goes too far below that, it just becomes unwatchable. So kind of 6 out of 10 is the quality we're shooting for. Pretty low bar, but just put a little effort in to make it look right. And then as far as the cadence, whatever's sustainable. And so a lot of times people come in and they're like, I'm going to post 5 days a week, and that's really hard to stick to. And so if you don't do it, you feel like you're failing, you miss a day, you end up not doing it, and then it doesn't work. So find a
Yeah.
cadence, whether that's once a week, twice a week, where you're like, I could stick to this, that's maintainable, and I could hit a 6 out of 10 every time, and you will win.
Hmm. You you said something about just being real and what you want. And I feel like for me, that's hard sometimes. Like I don't know what I want.
Yeah.
Um uh I think I know what should I maybe what someone wants to hear, or I see someone else post, I'm like, oh, that was pretty good, maybe I'll do that. But like I think you've done a really, really good job of staying authentic. And how do you do that? Like how do you just like push yourself into staying real and just like continue coming up with, nope, this is what I want to post?
There's a few different tricks that I've used, but a lot of it comes down to this, like, there's one big concept of when you make a video and it goes out to, say, 1,000 people, right? Or even a few hundred, uh, we think we're talking to hundreds of people when we film that video, but you're talking to one person hundreds of times, not hundreds of people. That's a very different thing. And you
Mm,
know that as someone who speaks on stage, like there is a little bit of a difference when you stand on a stage and speak to 1,000 people. You talk a little bit different than you do in conversation. But when you're in a one-on-one, imagine being in a one-on-one and having the same delivery that someone has on stage, how uncomfortable that would be, right? Like Ed Milet, super powerful, really phenomenal speaker on stage. The way he speaks on stage, if me and him were having a one-on-one conversation, he's doing that, just yelling at me, I would be like, this is really, there's a huge disconnect, right?
yeah.
And so we got to remember, like, we're not talking to hundreds of people, we're talking to one person. And the way we talk to one person is usually exactly how we're doing this right now. It's a conversation where we're not overthinking it. We're not worried about this hyper crazy inflection and this stage presence and using verbiage that we don't use in normal conversation, right? Like there becomes a little bit of a disconnect. So, one pivot I would say is just keep in mind that you were talking to one person. The second part of that is who is that person you're talking to? And I don't mean like who's your avatar of your client, like actually build a person that would be fitting of the content that you want to make. So for me, this was kind of the process I went through was I'm a younger brother, I have an older brother.
Mm,
Um, and I always looked at my older brother and his friends as like they're everything they say is like I want to listen to it, right? They have this
yeah.
authority, they're cool, they have the stat, like they don't need to prove anything to me. They have that status. And so then when I was like when with my buddies, when they had little brothers, I already knew what that status was like to the little brother, right? Because I had been
Mm,
that. And so you have this authority, you get to speak with certainty, you don't question yourself, like there's this status you feel like you have. So for me, when I got into lending, I'm like, okay, this stuff is really complicated and I want to simplify it and really dumb it down. And so I started to picture like it's one of my buddy's little brothers. That's who I'm talking to on the other side of the screen. Because in my head, when I'm 24, 25, when I first started making these videos, I was really nervous about what the Chris Vincents were going to think, right? Like, oh
mhm,
man, I got to prove something to Chris. So then I was wearing collared shirt and I had it tucked in. And then I was trying to use a lot of loan verbiage to try and show that I knew what I was talking about. And there was this huge disconnect. And I'm like, who's watching this and who's going to care? And also, Chris isn't the guy who I'm trying to like get loans from or honestly try to help with these videos. I
right.
want to help people that are buying homes. And so when I made that switch of like, all right, I'm talking to one of my little or one of my friends' little brothers who's really curious about buying a house, how would I talk to him? Completely different than the first way that I was doing these. And so then I
Yeah.
started switching it. I'm like, okay, I would not talk this way. I wouldn't dress this way. Like, I'm going to try doing it different. And so then all of a sudden it made it where I'm like simplifying these concepts to just the easiest level possible. Cause that's what I would do if this guy was sitting in my office with me. Right. Now dress more comfortable. Now talk more casually. My tone and cadence and delivery changed. And then it got really easy for me to make this content where people who are on the other side of the screen feel that, where it's like, oh man, yeah, he's just trying to help me and he's giving me advice and he's making it really simple. I don't feel judged or uncomfortable or like I can't ask a dumb question. So that's kind of, if I was to say, how do you get more authentic? That would be kind of the steps to take.
So go back to picking this person that you're talking to.
Yeah.
I mean, did you like do the old thing where I'm speaking to a 32-year-old, married, one dog, one child, uh, thing, or did you globalize it a little bit bigger than that and uh, picture like you were speaking to your little brother, or like how did you do that?
I mean, it could be a little of both. For me, it was more of like, what would I want to be? When do you feel like you're the most confident and can talk the most freely? And for me, that was kind of the person. It came back to this, like it's my buddy's little brother. Like I don't need to impress him. I don't need to prove myself. Like I can literally help him, and what I say he's going to listen to, and I can speak
Yeah,
with authority. And so for me, it was kind of it worked backwards. It was like, what do I want to embody, and who do I have the easiest time embodying that with? If that makes sense. So rather than
yeah,
going to like, oh, my friend's little brother, he's this age, he graduated, he's curious about this, and then trying to, again, it kind of works backwards where now I'm trying to make myself fit in a box. I found the box I want to fit in. And then it just became easy for me. Like, who's the person that lets me play in that area?
yeah.
And so, yeah, it's a similar concept, but when you work in the other direction, it makes it easier to hold that authenticity. And
You
so,
take the pressure off of it. That takes the pressure off.
huge. And a lot of times, like, especially with LOs that are a little bit older, I'll ask them, like, do you have kids? How old are your kids? And they'll be like, oh, I've got a 23-year-old or 24-year-old. I'm like, perfect.
Mm,
You're talking to one of your kids' friends. And that's like a really easy one because obviously a lot of lending is at the age where that is kind of the sweet spot is like you're talking to one of your kids' friends. And if they said, like, hey, Chris, should I buy a house right now? Your answer would be super relaxed, really casual, really simplified. And you would deliver that in a way where it's like, it becomes effortless, right?
yeah. And it's it might just be, I'm like trying to come up with another word than authority, but it might just be someone of influence that
Mm,
you're like, I should probably listen to that.
yep.
And you just naturally do.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point is there's a difference between and that's kind of what I was saying of like I started and I was trying to impress the Chris Vincents of the world with these videos when my goal was not to connect with them, it was to connect with people who wanted to buy houses.
Mhm.
And that influence was hard because I was faking it at the beginning, right? Because I'm trying to act like I'm a veteran loan officer who's been in the business forever and knows everything there is to know about loans versus like I'm just here to help this person be able to buy a house. And so when I was trying to speak with influence to try and influence a Chris Vincent, that becomes there's a disconnect, it becomes insincere and you're not influential. You become a poser and you're fake. Where
Yeah,
like for me to be influential to one of my buddy's little brothers who knows nothing about buying houses, my 1 year of experience in loans at the time, that was enough to be influential. And so it allowed me to just like relax and speak with that confidence. And then that carries across to where then the Chris Vincents watch it and go like, I rock with this kid. I like what he said.
so Daniel asks, any suggestions? Struggle with doing videos myself. Any suggestions of what I can do to be better on camera? I want to say practice,
Hmm.
uh, and continue to do it. You'll naturally get better and better and better. But I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna challenge you with this. Uh, do you practice having a real conversation with a borrower? Do you practice having a real conversation with your little brother's friend who wants to buy a house? Probably not. So why do we have to practice so much on camera?
So it's because like me talking to you right now is something we've been doing for since we became verbal. I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of years humans became verbal, right? Talking to inanimate objects is something that since the dawn of time you've been crazy. If you sit and talk to a rock or talk to a plant or talk to a phone where there's no person and you talk to a camera and there's no human, it's really uncomfortable for us because it's not
Hmm.
in our nature. We're
Right.
social beings. We communicate when we're talking to somebody. So to try to have a conversation with somebody that's not there is really freaking hard. That's and it's okay. Like I feel like people need to give themselves permission to like that is not a normal thing to be able to talk to an inanimate object in the same tone and delivery that we talk to other humans with. And that's why we need to practice it. And
Hmm.
so I have a few tricks that I've used that have worked, and I've coached thousands of loan officers and realtors how to do this as well. And it's worth trying all of them. The first thing I would do though is do a challenge for yourself. And if you do a 14-day challenge where you film yourself every single day, you don't need to post it, but just every day pull out your phone, talk to it about something, watch even in 14 days your first video compared to your 14th, night and day. And then
Hmm.
after that, hit the ground running and give yourself permission to post.
That's
Um,
that's awesome. You know, it just hit me. It just hit me. You tricked me. You don't even know what I'm gonna say, do you?
I don't know.
Like, I think the greatest way to be able to speak to the phone is have someone on the other side ask you the questions. And I said in the beginning of this, you got some of the best content out of me. And I'm speaking to the camera, but really I was speaking to you.
Yep.
And you're right. Uh, there is a different component. Like if I went outside and spoke to a cactus, it's gonna get weird.
It's
It's gonna get
definitely.
really weird, especially if someone's watching me.
Yep.
But you interviewing me on the other side of the cactus ain't weird. And I think that if you're not paying attention or whoever's listening to this, 14 days and practicing that, and before you ever post anything, um, that's brilliant. That's a great idea.
Yeah. And you just hit it on the head, which was one of the pointers I give though, is like it having someone else in the room for some people is really hard. For other, like for me, I love when other people in the room when I'm shooting
Hmm.
because it feels really weird for me to be in a completely silent room and try to get my energy to the point that I need to. Like I like having a cameraman on the other side, or even what we were doing of like, yeah, have someone ask you a question and you just be able to answer it to them. Right. And so that was the thing when me and you were together was when you were actually talking to me, not just the like, hey, I'm going to throw up a hypothetical and Chris, what's the one thing that loan officers should be focusing on? And then you look to the camera and then deliver it as a video. It was when you were actually answering me, like as Trevor, as the loan officer. That was when we were getting the best content. And that was when me and you were where I was so like sucked into what you were saying because we just kind of went into conversation mode like this.
Yeah.
And I was telling you the other day this of like, man, the way that you broke down these concepts when we were talking about it was really cool because it was mining your database
Hmm.
for business.
Hmm.
And I was like a little bit cynical almost, like
Hmm.
pushing back of like, what if you
Yeah.
don't have a huge database? Right. Like yeah, all these LOs that have been in here for 30 years, like I have a little chip on my shoulder because
Yeah.
they have a massive database. I don't have one. And
Yeah.
you went into just like, well, here's what I would do. Here's where I would start. Here's where I'd go next. And this is the result you can get. And you broke it down in the most like simple, uh, non-intimidating way that I've ever had someone break down mining a database.
Hmm.
And it was a way though when we were conversing that was much different than if you were to try to like script that packaging and put it in a video. And so, yeah, you're 100% right. That conversational tone, once you tap into that and feel like how it felt when me and you were talking in that moment, what you were coming up with was like night and day, super well received and insanely well delivered.
But what you did for me was if anyone went back and found that video, the day that I showed up, I was pissed. And I was mad because one of my competitors was kind of bullying, picking on me a little bit.
Yeah.
And you asked me this question, which started me in my tracks. Like, I feel like this is maybe this is like step four of creating video, but having your friends challenge you about a situation can create some of the greatest content ever. And you're like, but wait a minute, Chris, why is competition good? And I'm like, you're right, competition is good. And then off went this video. And I don't think if I just said that I was going to stand in front of a camera, that I would have been able to do that video. But because you interviewed made me think of it differently, out came a amazing video.
And what was so fun about that one too, Chris, was it kind of goes back to what we were saying at the start was you kind of had this concept of like what you wanted to shoot about that topic, but it was almost what you thought was expected to be made, right? Like this is what I think I'm supposed to how I think I'm supposed to react to this. And then
Yeah,
when me and you started talking, it was like, wait, there's a whole different kind of thing that you really think and that you're saying in this conversation. And then that was ultimately what I think we came out with at the end was just through that dialogue of like, I think I'm supposed to make this and people are expecting me to say this versus like, well, this is how I actually feel. Yeah, no, I love that he's doing this. Love where the guy's at because that helps me. And we're like, that's a cool angle. Say that.
yeah, that was a great day. But
Uh,
going back to content. So, first step, do 14 days, practice it, and then look how you improved. Don't show it to your wife because they notice everything. Uh, I'm joking. If Shalice watches that, she would laugh. But it was amazing. Oh, did you see? Did you? I'm like, if I show it to Shalice, I ain't posting. Nothing's gonna get posted. Uh, and she's probably gonna get after me for saying that. That's probably not true. She's a great critic and real. But then after, I'm like, okay, I think I'm ready. Now what do I do?
So now you have to do the hardest part of the entire journey. Like it will never be harder, is just post the first one.
Yeah.
And that's going to be like it's so cool because we set the bar really high for ourselves and we're our biggest critics far and away. But you look at any great creator, any person who's making videos online and you go to their early videos, they're not even close to where they are now. So we come with this like, hey, I'm just starting out and I'm watching Chris's videos and I want to be on his level, and you make your video and it's not, and then you discourage yourself and you don't post it. That's the equivalent though of watching X Games, being like, I really want to ski, and they're doing these really cool tricks. So like, I'm gonna go try those, and then you can't nail that trick, so then you just end up not skiing. Like, that's not how that works.
Right.
Post your first one, go down your first ski slope, and start progressing towards where you want to go. And so just make sure you're not setting the bar at an unrealistic expectation because that'll keep you from ever being able to do it. So if you do those 14 days, I promise you will be better than 98% of people on the internet if you do that and you post. And then from there is where all this growth is going to happen. And you'll get to a point where it just becomes really easy and really fluid. And one of the biggest tips I could give you to when it comes to delivery, especially when you're at the beginning, is if you're shooting on your phone, that the easiest way to tap into that really conversational tone, just imagine you're on a FaceTime. So instead of like when you turn the camera on and you're looking at your own face, just try to picture like that's someone else's face. And I'm on FaceTime and I'm talking to them. And it'll help you get into that like a little bit more conversational. Um, and you're not stumbling through FaceTimes. You're not getting caught on your words. You're not overthinking. Try to embody that and you'll be good.
Yeah. Also, be willing to cut and clip.
Mm,
Like, just start talking, and then in the middle, you'll get the juice.
yep.
And then just cut and clip the juice in the middle and post.
Yep.
I think everyone's like, no, I started here. This is when I got to do it. And I ended here. I'm like, no, no, no. The middle is the best part. Just get the middle.
Yep. 100%. Yeah, sometimes that's when you get into your flow and you get all the weird stuff out at the beginning, then just cut that out, start in the middle.
All right, let's do this. You're a loan officer. You understand the market. You understand what's going on right now. You get it as good as anybody. What would be three topics that you think uh, the majority would want to hear if you were a loan officer starting out in video today? What three topics would you talk about?
That's a really good question. Um, there's a few different frameworks we have with coming up with content. And a lot of it comes with like uh, this concept of problem aware and problem unaware. And so when we go
Give
to
me that.
and
Give that again. I want everyone to catch that.
So this is like, yeah, and well, this is a really huge marketing point to make sure we hammer home. But knowing if your customer is problem aware, problem unaware. And I'll give
Hmm.
you two examples of this that make it really easy. So, problem unaware. So, are you familiar with the product Febreze,
Yeah,
the spray, right? So,
yeah,
Febreze is actually a pretty cool product when it came out because it had this technology where you could spray it on fabric and it actually eliminates odor rather than just covering it up. So the product itself was pretty innovative, really cool, and it was a Johnson and Johnson product, so it had unlimited budget behind it to be able to get people to buy it. So
okay.
Febreze comes out, they're really excited about this product, put a ton of money behind it, launch it, and it's a complete flop. Because they were telling you that you could spray this on fabric, it eliminates odor. You could spray it on your couch, on your furniture, and your house isn't going to smell bad anymore. The problem with that was no one knew that their house smelled bad. So their audience was problem unaware, right? They were selling a solution to a problem their customer didn't know existed. And so every dog owner is sitting at home like, oh, well, it's a good thing my house doesn't smell bad. And they move on and they don't buy the product. So then, and a lot of you guys will probably remember this, they did a phenomenal pivot on their marketing because it was a flop on launch was, do you remember this campaign? It was you've gone nose blind. Febreze ran it for years.
I don't, but I'm the wrong person to ask on that. But I guarantee you, my wife knows.
She for sure, and they ran it for years, and it was on all that was all their marketing was you've gone nose blind, and it would show like people walking in houses and like, oh, it smells like dog and it smells like litter box and all these
You
things, and it
started to
was
worry what others were going to smell.
yes. And so they did this amazing job because now everybody was aware of the problem, which is your house probably smells and you don't even know it. Here's Febreze that solves that issue. So first they painted the problem, then they gave you the solution to the problem versus just selling the solution. Right? So this is like a huge thing with what we do because we are often selling problems to or I mean solutions to problems people aren't aware they have. And so
Yep.
we will tell people like, man, FHA is an amazing program because the PMI, if you have bad credit, is like phenomenal. It's way lower than conventional. They don't know that that problem exists. So we need to make them really aware of like when you buy a house, if your credit's this, this is the problem. Now enter FHA as being an amazing solution because you could put low down with bad credit, blah, blah, blah. And so there's one pivot of like when you're coming up with topics, the top three, I would just look at like what are the solutions that we have to offer people, and then how do we frame those in a way where they understand the problem, then we give solution, right? And so in this concept of are people problem aware or problem unaware, you're always safer assuming that your audience is problem unaware.
Yeah.
So make them aware of the problem, then give them the solution. On the other hand, is problem aware. This is like say Spotify when they came out
Hmm.
there you could stream whatever song you want at any point and you don't need CDs anymore. It's a pretty easy solution to give somebody because people are aware of the problem, right? Like you don't need
Right.
to tell them like your CD only holds 21 songs, you have to buy songs for $1 a piece. It was enough where they could just advertise the solution to that. So in our case that would be something of like we don't need to beat into the ground that rates are high, payments are high, affordability is bad. People are pretty aware of that specific problem. So that's where you could come in with the solution to high rates being 2-1 buy downs or being X, Y, and Z, right? Um, so that's kind of what I would focus on is always assume your audience is problem unaware. Find what solutions you have, educate your audience on what that problem is and how easily it is for you to solve that.
Hmm. As we're closing up, a couple fun questions to ask in the end. But if I was going to do a video today of first time home buyer, okay, the probably problem unaware would be what? Could I actually do it?
Yeah.
Um, I don't have the down payment. That would be a problem maybe that they would be aware of.
Yeah.
But what would be an unaware problem of a first time home buyer that we could capture that someone could actually go today and make this video?
So some of those are like it kind of it's easier when you think of like solutions. So if we looked at more of like, okay, what are the problems in the market? Like you said, affordability, down payment, whatever it is that those are, then we look at what solutions do we have? We have a 3% down conventional, we have 3.5% FHA, we have grant programs maybe, and depending on what state you're in, those are amazing.
Sure.
So now we look at like, okay, which of those do we want to pick? So maybe let's just do the 3% down conventional. right? So there's our solution. Now we tell people the problem traditionally that they're unaware of is when you go to buy a house, most people think you need 20% down on a $400,000 house. That's $80,000. But did you know you could actually buy that house with as little as $12,000 using a 3% down conventional loan? If you haven't bought a house in the last 3 years, you're eligible for this. And that's basically the video, right?
Right. And, and then at the end, I'm just curious, do you bring in a call to action to DM you, or do you just let that sit and let them DM you?
I would be use call to action sparingly, and this is like a call in and of itself is on call to actions. Use those very sparingly, and if you do them, don't say the like call me for more information, DM me for more information. That's implied that they can do that. You can always put that in the caption below it. Put some more information on like these programs are amazing. Some people may not qualify. These programs have income limits. Whatever the thing is, DM me if you have any more questions. You could throw that in the caption. But as far as
Okay.
verbally, I would steer clear of doing the very generic call me today, DM me for information. If you're doing a call to action, this is something that we do a lot with LynkSpot is we use these things called lead magnets, which
Okay.
is where you're giving something away in exchange for their information. So then your call to action, there's this concept we talk about, which is like deposits and withdrawals. If I give you information, that's a deposit. If I ask you to work with me, that's a withdrawal. And
Right.
so we want to deposit way more than we withdraw.
Yeah.
And when you use a lead magnet, it's a really cool situation where your withdrawal actually comes in the form of a deposit. And so if I made a video on down payment assistance, I'm talking about this at the end, rather than saying, call me, which now I'm withdrawing, right?
Right.
DM me if you want to take advantage of this, is I have a guide that has the best down payment assistance programs in the state of California. DM me and I'll send it to you.
I love it.
So now that's a deposit. You're actually like, thank you, Trevor, for doing that. And I'm like, thank you, prospect client, for sending me your information. Right.
But that's a great way to be able to get deposit and withdrawal at the
Yep.
same time.
Yep. Yeah.
That
So if
is
you're going to do them, lead magnets are, and that's something that we do on LynkSpot. We have a bunch of those where it's like, here's guides on what you should be doing if you want to buy a house in the next 90 days. Refinance watch list was one that we used that got a ton of leads for our users, which is like right now, nobody's really drumming up refinance leads. And so the beauty of it is when rates come down and everybody's hounding for refinance leads, it's just pure withdrawal, right? Because everybody knows like we're making money off this. Where right now we rolled out this refinance campaign and got hundreds of like and really high quality leads, which is rates are high, they're gonna come down. When that happens, it's really hard for you to know when the right time for you to refinance is. Join this list and I'll tell you when the perfect time for you to refinance is.
that's awesome.
And so for me, I'm getting all these refinance leads because they're telling me their name, their email, but also the rate they have on their house, how much they owe on it, everything that I know want to know about a lead. Um, and
You
then
have it.
yes, yeah, it's amazing. And so they're excited because I'm going to tell them when a good time for them to refinance is, and I'm excited because I get to tell them when a good time to refinance is.
Right. And you control the narrative on the situation.
Yeah,
What's the goat on the hat?
this is actually I get these from some site where you get to custom make your hats, and I just like this patch and threw it on there.
So this is just something you're like, oh, that's a cool patch. I'm putting it on.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny the link spot. Like, there's an icon that we have, and it is a goat.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, so yeah,
uh,
this is good question.
uh, favorite thing to do? Be by yourself or be with a bunch of people?
Gosh, I'm so 50-50 on that. It depends.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
There's times where I just want to be by myself, which is happened lately.
yeah,
And I never noticed that about myself because normally I like a lot of action, a lot of people, a lot of things going on. But now I'm like, no, I kind of like to chill and just be by myself for a second. That
yeah.
has definitely changed. What's the one thing you're excited the most about the mortgage industry in the next 12 months?
Ooh, that's it. One that gets me really excited is I think we're heading into one of the best times to be in mortgages. And it's because of the thing that people are scared of is the thing that I also think is going to make it really fun to do our job. And that's with a lot of the stuff that's happening with AI. It's going to make fulfillment of loans a lot easier. It's going to make all of our lives a lot better. Um, so that's something I think a lot of people are scared of, how that's going to affect our industry. But if you focus on what we talk about, which is how to get business and how to separate yourself and create that strong personal brand, then all the stuff that's happening with AI is going to be of benefit to you, not of detriment.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I think we're just going to have to do another episode on branding because
yeah.
we originally thought we could handle both of these, and we're already at 45 minutes, and
Gosh,
we're
that went
just
quick.
get it's so quick, and the branding is I watched my son's eyes change when you made him think about branding, and I want to be able to do that for everyone because you have that gift of branding and just thinking about it differently, which I truly love. um the If I want to get connected in to LynkSpot, easiest way to get you or to get to LynkSpot to ask questions about it is how?
Just shoot me a DM on Instagram would probably be the easiest at Trev York, TrevYork. Um, and I'll be able to hook you up. And we actually do have a special for Windsor
Oh,
specifically. So if you guys found it through here, we're giving half off those build fees, which is pretty substantial just
that
for Windsor people.
wow, that's incredible. And I'm telling you, you are going to have something that will work. And Trevor said it, that you excited about all the opportunity coming in the next 12 months. Right now is the time to invest in yourself to get everything ready, not 12 months from now.
Yeah.
You do it now, and watch you get to the fruit, and being able to, one of the things that I had that question on LinkSpot was is that you offer all these additional services through that monthly piece. And where do your customers today utilize that service the most?
A lot of I mean, just having that site in itself, that step in the middle to send people to is huge because most of our workflow when we talk to clients is we send them our online application. First two questions are, what's your social and how much money do you make? And so it's very like you have a bounce rate of people who finish that online application. Where just putting the step in the middle. So every single client I talk to, um, this next step is always like, all right, Chris, sounds like you're in great shape. Go to yorklending.com, hit the apply for a loan button. That'll give me everything I need to get you started. So when you go to yorklending.com, you're seeing my site that has a funnel. So there's a net that I capture you in. Um, but then it also has the same online application that we're sending people to anyways. So just by utilizing the site, you'll see conversion go up. You leverage that with real estate agents too, because most loan officers don't have a site that looks that way, especially when you present it the way that I just did, where you show them of like, here's why I have this, creates a way to capture leads. It creates this net so we don't miss people. It has automated scheduling so they could get a hold of me anytime. So there's a ton of way just to leverage that piece in itself. So that's a huge one. But then we also have like 30 pre-built funnels and lead magnets on there that people use and roll out. Like one of our guys, Darren, got I think it was like 77 refinance leads with that refinance funnel we were just talking about. Um,
Incredible.
which is yeah, like you said, right now you invest in it, then when rates drop, Darren's got 77 people. He's just messaging and closing and knows their exact rate. Cool thing on that one too, Chris, was like 68 of the 77 had over I think it was over a 6% rate. So it wasn't like he's getting a bunch of people to join this list that are, 2.5s and
Right, right.
3%. Like these are people who it is at the top of their mind. Like, I want to refinance when rates come down. So, I mean, I don't know what the value of that list is, but it's up there.
I'm gonna send you so many loan officers that need this. I'm sending you Clay first.
There we
Like
go.
this is the future. I'm so excited, Trevor. Thanks for being on Coaching with Chris today.
Dude, absolutely. Chris, and what I want to do this at some point, I want to flip the table and I would love to do this with you. And I would love to interview you on Coaching with Chris if you're open to that, because
Yeah.
those conversations we had in Vegas, man, I'm telling you, when we were pulling that stuff out of you, I had never heard somebody break down these concepts that I've heard a lot, but not the way that you broke them down and how you simplified them. And
Hmm.
so I feel like that would be an incredible podcast to do as well.
We're gonna do that. We're gonna flip it.
Let's do it.
and have you do that. I've never had anyone ask me to do that, so we're gonna do it. I thought maybe one day I'd have my kids interview me,
Yeah.
because I thought they could. I mean, they know everything,
Yeah.
so that might be down the road. But Trevor, thank you. We're doing it. We're flipping the script, and also we're gonna have to be talking about branding. Thanks, Trevor.
All right, buddy. See ya.